All right, we are live. Hey guys, how's everyone doing today? I wanted to jump on here and weigh in a little bit on the Jimmy Kimmel situation, which, aside from his ratings, which I was expecting it sooner or later, the dominoes were going to fall anyway, but he stepped in it, and now he's fired, and of course there's a whole firestorm about it. People trying to blame the FCC when in fact you had Nexstar and Sinclair television stations threatening to not air the Jimmy Kimmel show. And hey Webb, welcome. And I thought it was rather interesting. So this is, and I'm sure a lot of you have now heard this story already, but this is from the New York Post discussing it. And this is what I found interesting. So I think he had a chance to save his show. And again, I would say that would most likely be short term because the ratings sucked. But he refused to apologize for claiming that the Tyler kid who took out Charlie Kirk was in fact MAGA Republican, which is patently absurd and false, considering we know his family, for example, have verified that he was radicalized after going to college. And of course, he was dating his trans roommate, and all the Antifa or fascist language that they use at that organization. So Jimmy Kimmel said what he said, knowing that what he was saying was false, but he did it anyway. Which I'll expand on what I think about that in a minute. Now, New York Post. Unrepentant Jimmy Kimmel refused to apologize after Charlie Kirk outrage and planned to double down on his MAGA attacks, which is then no surprise that they paused his show indefinitely. Here's, of course, what he said in case you were living under a rock and missed it.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from.
Here's everything you need to know.
Which again, patently absurd and false. Anyway, they go on to write, late night host Jimmy Kimmel said he was unwilling to apologize for his remarks that blamed the MAGA supporters for killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk, and said he was going to double down on attacking President Trump's backers before he was yanked from the air, according to new reports. Kimmel learned in a phone call from top Disney executive Dana Walden on Wednesday afternoon that his show was being removed indefinitely. During the call, Kimmel reportedly refused to comply with calls from critics and the owners of dozens of the ABC affiliate stations for him to apologize, which is the real reason why they took him down. And Kimmel felt his remarks required no apologies. The Jimmy Kimmel live host also claimed that he was planning to call out his critics for the latest attack on him, all the while trying to clarify his comments about Kirk's death. I mean, what is there really to clarify here? The kid was not right-wing. I mean, I don't think any of us are really surprised, but it goes back to the left right now, I think, and Kimmel is one of these people. They are flailing left and right, trying to obfuscate the truth for a bunch of reasons. First of all, they're in trouble, and they know it. And public opinion, unlike a lot of these clowns on the internet who are celebrating Kirk's death, who were saying, "Yay, he's going to die," and "Oh, this won't cause the right to do anything." And I think they realized, this is bad. You have international support for Charlie Kirk. There were people, saying, "I am Charlie Kirk" in South Korea, in the UK, in other countries. I mean, this greatly increased Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA influence and attention. And so they don't want the blame for that, and they don't want the blame for being caught with their hateful rhetoric, which they have been using for the past 10, 15 years in ever-increasing radical nature with the Nazi, the fascist, and racist and bigotry and all the isms and phobes that you can imagine that they put on Republicans. And so they know that what they're saying is going to eventually lead to violence, because if you're telling people that the end is nigh that we must fight for the country, that fascism is here, that it's taking over. Well, guess what? You're going to end up with some lunatics out there who are going to take action. And that's going to increase with regularity if something isn't done. And the other thing, I think, the reason why people like Jimmy Kimmel are out there trying to push the idea that they are not to blame here and that why this was just a crazy MAGA guy is, I think, inward focused as well. If you have any sort of honesty, if there's a grain of goodness in your heart and you are one of these leftist radicals who are out there, joining the mantra of the other side's bad and or celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, you begin to realize that, hey, if you look at this logically, that, you know what, maybe we are not the good guys, or at least some of us on our side aren't. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow for people that are on the left. Nobody wants to think that they're the bad guys here. Nobody wants to think that they are, evil incarnate. I'm sure the mad painter of Germany in the 1930s and 1940s thought he was also a good guy. Most people, I think, self-delude. And I think that's where you're at with the left, is they do not want to face the reality that they themselves are, in fact, on the side of evil. Anyway, the New York Post goes on to write that Disney felt that Kimmel had doubled down that if Kimmel had doubled down on his MAGA comments, the company would have been forced to make a more drastic decision than simply suspending the show, sources told Deadline. It remains unclear if Kimmel is willing to return to host a late-night show following Disney's actions. I mean, I don't think that he has an option here. And I think he only had 1 year left on his contract anyway. And I think the writing was on the wall. All of these late-night television shows are already going to implode here. It's a dying beast. Everybody's going online. Everyone's becoming a content creator. That is the future of media consumption. The younger generations are not watching legacy television. Aaron says they don't want to take the blame for what they created. No, they don't. It's bad for their psyche. And also it's bad for them politically. And the inevitable hammer that's going to fall from the right in dealing with this, you're going to see them cry like stuck pigs, which I find rather ironic. In fact, you had Obama out there complaining about cancel culture over the Jimmy Kimmel situation and claimed that he was taking it to a new and dangerous level, which, by the way, is really stupid considering that the left they brought cancel culture to the U.S. They depersoned, they yeeted people off the internet, they deplatformed, they doxed, they threatened, they burned down cities. But oh no, now that it's affecting them, now they're angry. And of course, it's not actually cancel culture that's happening right now. It's cancellations. But there isn't a right-wing group out there saying, okay, if you say this word, you're going to be deplatformed. It's simply if you're promoting violence, funding violence, we're going to go after you. That's very different than saying, hey, I believe that a woman is a woman, and then getting thrown off the internet or being threatened with murder and death. I still can't believe Obama. I mean, what kind of delusion are you under to say that? Anyway, let's see. Now, the company has vowed not to return Kimmel's show on the 40-some ABC affiliates. These are the networks that were threatening to keep his show off the air because of what he was saying, and it wasn't reflecting what their audience wanted. That it owns and operates until formal discussions are held with ABC regarding the network's commitment to professionalism and accountability. Now, both Sinclair and Nexstar, these are the guys that forced the issue, have been accused of bowing to the Trump administration to curry favor as they prepare for a billion-dollar merger that would require the FCC approval. That's probably part of it, sure, but the markets they are in are more conservative anyway, who don't want to watch this stuff. But let me put it to you this way. Aside from all of this, I think the reason why ABC also kicked Jimmy off the air is there's another risk that I don't see anyone really talking about, and maybe it's occurred, I just haven't noticed it. But Jimmy Kimmel saying these defamatory statements about the shooter and Charlie Kirk is also opening the door, I think, and I'm not a lawyer, but just from this man on the internet's opinion, I think it also opens the door for serious lawsuits. And I think this is why that the network acted, because they know that the Trump administration's not screwing around right now. This is not the time to F around when the right now is making everybody find out. So, for example, let's go back in time. Do you guys remember Alex Jones? Alex Jones is a strange fellow, right? And a number of years ago, he made some demonstrably false statements where he was claiming that the shooting at Sandy Hook was all staged. This is where 20 children died and I think 6 teachers, something like that. And he called it a hoax and was suggesting that they were crisis actors, the family. So in other words, they weren't real. Now, he eventually gets sued and he gets fined for a ridiculous sum of $1.5 billion, which, as a sidebar, is insane and probably illegal when all is said and done. Because, there's the 8th Amendment, right? Which is all about having no excessive bail being required, nor excessive fines imposed, and of course, the cruel and unusual punishment. So, if we can do that to Alex Jones, which, let's be honest, he deserved to get sued over his claims, and even though the fines were outrageous, if we can do that to the character like Alex Jones, then why wouldn't we see that happen to Jimmy Kimmel, especially if he doubles down on this? So I think maybe part of this is the desire to avoid a potential lawsuit. The Trump administration has been winning some of these, whether they're settling out of court with some of the networks. So I think that puts him at risk. And Rich, I think he lost business behind the right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of right-wingers watch Jimmy Kimmel anymore and haven't for a long time. These guys stopped being funny a long time ago when they became political hacks, where comedy disappeared and it just became political commentary, which is fine, but it doesn't fit into a comedy routine. But I think that with Jimmy making patently false statements about the shooter's ideology, and doing so intentionally, I believe, because he wants to obfuscate the truth, to give himself and his left-wing buddies cover for the growing violence in the country, I think this opens the door for a big lawsuit. So, if I had to guess, I think that's what's happening here. And I know that, it's always risky going down the censorship route, but I don't really see... I don't think that that's what's happening here. I think this is more of public pressure. And again, defamatory statements, we have, decades of tradition here of saying you can't do that. So, you know what? I don't feel bad for Jimmy the Bimmy Kimmel. And I am not going to miss him when he's gone. And the thing is, I have this other article up here, and I'm going to kind of slide this into this story. The thing is, if they can't convince you, and I think more and more leftists are going to eventually wake up to the fact that this guy was indeed a radical leftist, the shooter, I think that they're going to try and find other ways to excuse the behavior. I mean, these guys are desperate to not be the villains. And that's where you get this idiot, this ABC's Matt Gutman, who was trying to suggest that the assassination, that Tyler, the killer, was sending touching text messages. And I don't know how you sit there as a leader in the left right now and not be worried about where you are. I mean, the outrage that's coming from this, because it's not going away. I think even though we're a long way off from the 2026 election season, I think this will play a role, a big role potentially, which ordinarily I would tell you that anything happens now this far out from the election cycle is going to be meaningless. It's like when you had the people talking about the Epstein drama, and saying, "Oh, this could destroy the Republican Party." And I remember telling my friend, I said, "Look, we're so far away from 2026 that none of this is going to matter. The things that are going to affect that election will not be anything that happens now. This might be an exception, by the way. But generally speaking, nothing that happens this far out is going to matter because people have short memories. Although, again, with Charlie Kirk, this might actually be a unique instance. As a lawyer, an AG, your heart is in the right place, but as Trump says, some people can't speak. And I see Aaron, he was fawning over the dude boyfriend. Yeah. And by the way, and again, I haven't heard anyone say this, and maybe someone else has, but I was looking at those text messages, and you get that cold response from the transformer boyfriend girlfriend thing. I actually took it as he knew, because of course everyone at the time was talking about it, what had gone on, and there's no way he's going to say anything that might be incriminating. I actually think that he was probably thinking, this is just my opinion here, but my guess is that the trans boyfriend girlfriend was probably thinking like, why the hell are you texting me? Don't do that. And was giving those flat responses, hoping that the guy would just shut the hell up. And my guess is when all's said and done, we're going to find out that I think you, again, just my opinion, but I think we're going to find out that the trans roommate lover was more invested in this. And I'm curious to see, because they're saying there's about 20 people in a chat room that were discussing this. How big does this go? And now that we are out there categorizing Antifa as a terrorist organization, this is a bad time to be on the left. It really is. And I'm excited to see where this goes, because let's be honest, we've been living under tyranny now for a long time. Even before the pandemic, when we had the steep rise in censorship. I mean, back in the days when I was doing medical news, and we had the ivermectin stories that I was covering, and kind of brought to, I guess, the public attention, and that was unheard of at the time. But left-wing threats and cancel culture was already well underway. But obviously things blew up from there. Tim Waltz was threatening that someone's going to be I hadn't seen that, but there were left-wingers that were randomly posting the day before that something's going to happen, and I don't have any of these tweets up. I might go search for them, but I for sure think that there was at least a number of these people that were involved. And when we consider, say, take the Antifa people, which of course are a hate group, terrorist group, these people, they may be spread out, but they are organized in small cells, and they all have similar ideology, and they work together. So my guess is there's potentially a lot of other people that are going to be targeted, which is why you have to bring the hammer down on these people. And it sucks. It sucks to have to really squeeze the vice here. But as a society, we cannot function with these radical leftists who are determined to destroy this country. I think RICO charges are coming for a lot of people. I would not be surprised. I think once we start finding out where the funding is coming from, Antifa to me always seemed like a outside the country funded organization. Just a personal opinion. So I will not be surprised if we find, some of the tinfoil hat theories coming true with this group. In my mind, by the way, Antifa and BLM are in the same vein. Politically, it's probably harder to categorize a BLM as a terrorist group. They're obviously a hate group who have also communist manifestos on their websites who want to tear down America as founded. But yeah, I'm not sure. He said it publicly today when Trump took the weekend off with his granddaughter. I'll have to look into that, because you definitely piqued my curiosity. I'm not sure on that one. But yeah, I just when I look at these text messages from old Tyler Robinson, I mean, look at this. Let's see. I am still okay, my love, but I am struck. Blah 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 blah. You weren't the one who did it, right? It's just these are definitely responses of someone who's like, don't text me. The opium stuff, deeply complex. Yeah. So, goodbye to Jimmy the Bimmy Kimmel. Honestly, I never found him funny though, personally. I don't know. I don't know how he kept his show up for so long. Now let's see. I'll get into that later. But yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to briefly talk about and do a react to when it came to this story, because that's just, I don't know. I think I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop with Jimmy. I'm really, if he doesn't apologize, I kind of hope that the Kirk family takes him to court. Ain't been funny in 20 years. Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I found him mildly okay, not funny, but like, if the TV was on 10, 15 years ago or whenever he first started doing it, I was like, whatever. I might not change the channel immediately, but yeah, he hasn't been funny since everything went crazy political. So there you go. There's our Jimmy Kimmel, and yeah, goodbye. Let's see. Now the other thing, so this is a different story, but this is from Axios, and because today they did their little let's see if I can do this here. They did a little vote to honor Charlie Kirk, and to my surprise, there were Democrats that voted for it, and of course, the left-wing news rag Axios is now saying they did so because they had fears of violence from the right. But I would argue that they're more likely to see violence from people on the left for supporting Charlie Kirk, because, right-wingers may be angry, but you typically don't see a lot of action from them. So anyway, this is Axios talking about how Democrats voice fears of violence over Charlie Kirk vote. They write, at closed-door meeting Thursday morning, multiple House Democrats raised the fear that lawmakers who vote against a resolution honoring Charlie Kirk could be subjected to threats or even violence. I don't think so. Now, why it matters. See, Axios wants you to know why it matters. It was a tense and emotional meeting, and some members left visibly upset. Probably because they didn't want to support or honor Charlie Kirk, because that breaks up their narrative of Charlie Kirk equals monster, equals fascist, equals orange man bad friend. And then this added fuel to existing concerns about the potentiality that dire political ramifications could happen from the vote. Senior House Democrat member who spoke on the condition of anonymity, of course he did, said that was the ugliest meeting I've ever seen. The lawmaker said that they saw frustration from members that never get mad, and members are on the edge in this moment, and said another senior House Democrat. Well, because they're falling apart. They're kind of put in a bind. If they vote to not honor Charlie Kirk, frankly, to the vast majority of Americans, they're going to come across as crazy and mad and, let's be honest, allies of evil people. Because in any sane world, there's no reason not to. You might disagree with the guy, but historically in this country, you could have disagreements, you could talk about it, and Charlie Kirk was the last man in this country that was dead set on having conversations with the opposition. Not being rude, not being mean, not putting you down, trying to communicate, trying to reach you, trying to understand your point of view. And for that, he was killed. And in this country, that's insane. And the reality is now we're in a place now where that no longer, I think, can occur without concern of violence. Because while they may crack down on this eventually, it's going to take a while. And I think people are going to be at risk. until the left-wing radicals are crushed. So anyone who wants to go and do a follow-up, a prove me wrong type open environment, where even indoors, the cost of insurance to cover this stuff, it's going to be bad. I mean, I've seen Tim Pool out there complaining about how he had to cancel events because of the cost of insurance or not being insured, etc. So yeah, the House Democrats would obviously be upset about this, and they don't. But I think it was the only way out of this. What we're hearing, Axios writes, several House Democrats stood up to voice concerns about the possibility of violence, with some arguing that if the party is divided, members who vote against the resolution may be targeted, which, of course, again, is nonsense. The right doesn't really do this kind of stuff. Now, one member point blank expressed the view, Axios writes, that there could be violent repercussions because of our not being together. What? According to the senior House Democrat, who paraphrased the argument as, if everybody's not a yes, the no's will get targeted. Oh, I see. So they had to go together one way or the other. A third House Democrat said the prospect of violence is a huge concern among their colleagues. That was the sentiment from multiple people in the meeting set forth. I think there's going to be threats of violence towards members who oppose it, said a fifth House Democrat. State of play. The House is set to vote Thursday on the 5-day page resolution that was introduced by House Speaker Mike Johnson and is co-sponsored by 165 House Republicans. In addition to condemning Kirk's assassination, which should be a no-duh, the measure calls the slain conservative activist a courageous American patriot, which, let's be honest, no matter how you view him politically, he did love his country and, as they said, worked tirelessly to promote unity without compromising on conviction. I mean, you can't argue that Charlie Kirk was someone who, again, even if you disagreed with him, did what he did because he loved this country. Full stop. And let's see, Mike Johnson was pushing the idea that Charlie Kirk, and this is for their resolution, personify the values of the First Amendment, exercising his God-given right to speak freely, challenge prevailing narratives, and did so with honor, courage, and respect for his fellow Americans. And that's also true. And, when I've seen a lot of these leftists who maybe didn't celebrate outright Charlie Kirk's death, but then try to excuse it, well, he was saying things that were mean and bad, and so he deserved this. See, that in of itself is wrong-think, is aligned with evil, because it doesn't matter what your take on this is. It doesn't matter if you thought what he said was, I mean, even if Charlie Kirk was going out there and saying, I hate y'all on the left, blah, blah, blah. Again, there's no excuse for murder. I remember when I was a kid, I don't remember what year this was. This was probably maybe in the early 90s. I remember there was a fight over free speech where some girl decided to make some art, where she decided to make a painting of Jesus and used her period blood to make a painting of this because she was insulting Christians. And then they displayed it at the school, which is horrendous. And they, of course, if I remember correctly, and again, I was just a kid, so if I'm wrong about the outcome, my apologies in advance. But from what I remember, they left it up. And it was all in the name of free speech. Now, it was highly offensive to Christians. But there weren't people out there saying, you know what? We need to kill this girl. Nobody's going to say that. And then when you think about the left and how they just kept ramping this up. I mean, I think of J.K. Rowling, who's a leftist in every way, shape, manner, or form, except she believes that women do not have penises. And for that, there were calls for violence. And there was also calls to yeet her off the internet, to ban her from polite society. It's just the intolerance here is so gross. I don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, yeah, that's fine. But I guess in explaining it, this goes back to the mantra that the left has been driving, that words equal violence. And it's a way to justify actual violence by saying, well, you're hurting me with your words, you're killing me, you're destroying my life because of words, and so then you can attack someone because they're hurting you. Let's see. Now, driving the news, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said at a Thursday morning meeting that his leadership team will vote for the resolution, according to half a dozen lawmakers and aides familiar with his remarks, but leadership is not formally whipping the vote, sources said, much to the frustration of some members. According to a 6th House Democrat who spoke on the condition of anonymity to share details of a sensitive discussion, members were urged not to judge other members by their votes on the resolution. They said it is a tough decision for everybody. I think that people want some more direction. Zooming in, Axios writes, multiple lawmakers departing the meeting also expressed the view that Republicans packed the resolution with praise for Kirk to make it politically harder for Democrats to vote for it. What a weird take. Even if they were, why on earth would that make it harder? Oh, because you disagreed with him politically? The guy was killed. What happened to your so-called need for unity, Democrat Party? Believe you me, if it had been a U.S. president like Obama, where this happened to, or somebody else, you don't think Republicans would be going out there and praising him to the hilt to let the world know that, hey, we are not for this? But of course, that kind of stuff, I guess, never matters. Is that? I'm reading your name as Diabetes Man, but it wasn't free speech. You aren't really allowed to denigrate nor endorse religion in public schools. Aaron says he's a disgusting character, referring to Jimmy. Heard he turned down apologizing. Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel had his chance, but I threw that out the window. But again, I guess if you're him, you only have a year left in your contract anyway. Probably trying to find an out and maybe become a YouTuber. Who knows? Now, what they're saying, continues Axios. Representative Becca Balint, Democrat, a progressive, told Axios coming out of the meeting that she plans to vote for the resolution because we need to condemn political violence. See, there is a far leftist who has a brain left on her shoulder. She says if Republicans were sincere about condemning political violence, they would bring a resolution that could get full bipartisan support, but I'm not taking the bait. Again, why? Who cares? Just vote for the resolution. Say, hey, look, people, we're not about being monsters. Yes, but, Axios writes, others emerged from the meeting saying that they were still not sure why or sure how they planned to vote on the measure. Easy. You say, I approve. You use your finger to vote. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of course, said, I'm not commenting on that right now. She's going to probably test the wind to see if her radical supporters will allow her to do this. And a 5th House Democrat who spoke anonymously said, it is interesting. People ask me what the hardest votes are. It is always the resolutions that don't really do anything. You're just trying to pick what group you're going to piss off or what value you're going to align with the most, the lawmaker said. These resolutions, they're meant to divide us. Okay. And then on the other side, you had Representative Anna Paulina Luna. This is interesting. I normally on Axios, I don't see them ever quoting the other side. Anna says, God forbid anything happens to the left-wing commentator, I would not be calling a resolution condemning his murder and assassination a partisan trap. But again, there you go. Republicans traditionally lean on the side of calling for calm. And then you got Riley Morse, another friend of Charlie Kirk, told Axios a vote for the Charlie Kirk resolution is a vote to condemn murder, obviously. And if your politics makes this a hard choice, your politics are broken. And he's correct. And then there's Republican Derek Van Orden of Wisconsin, who argued that Democrats' fears of violence, which have been raised multiple times in the past, are disingenuous, arguing that the inflammatory rhetoric is coming from the left, which that's an obvious 90-10 hate and anger from Democrat to Republican. So there you go. There's Axios about that. So now just a little housekeeping here. So I'm thinking this is kind of a little bit of a dry run. I'm thinking about periodically doing stuff like this where I'm going to do live streams. I've been doing this on Twitch for the last couple of months to put content then for episodes where I'm streaming back-to-back stories. And some of this is React content, like the article we just went through. I didn't actually pre-read any of this. I just wanted to react to it in real time, give you my thoughts and comments. And I'm doing most of this on Debaterman. I'm doing most of this on Twitch and then also on my alt channel, the Topical Umbrella. And I'm going to continue to do that. But if you guys enjoy this kind of format, I may do more of this. So we'll see. I'm kind of still figuring out how I want to do this, because when I move from article to article, it's kind of difficult when you have like whatever title I use for the beginning of this video is kind of the one I'm stuck with when you do YouTube. But again, if you guys like that, let me know, and I might do more of these as a live experience rather than doing pre-filmed, which I'm still filming live, by the way. I'm just cutting them up into episodic contents and then putting them up. Let's see. Now, I have a couple of other stories on the docket here. Let's see what I want to get into now. And usually what I do, by the way, when I do this is I simply go from story to story until I kind of run out of gas. Let's see. Let's get this. House Freedom Caucus Chair. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So what do you guys think about, and in my opinion, I'll share in a second, but what do you guys think about designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization or a terrorist organization? Because I kind of think that eventually, when all's said and done, we're going to find out that they have outside influences propping them up with money and probably agenda. Hi, Gunmetal. Yeah, man, I'm doing all right. I've been working myself to death. And for the next couple of weeks, because it's very difficult for me to be available in the mornings to do this, which I'm going to try to do because more of you guys are online throughout the day. And right around this hour, maybe over the next couple of hours, people start to go to bed, which is understandable. But I think in the coming months, I'm going to shift to earlier and earlier content. Legal Mindset covered the ramifications on this. Did he? I'll have to look it up. And you're talking about the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, right? I'll have to take a look at that when I have some time, and then get back to you on that. But I might do a reaction to that, and that's something else I kind of want to. I've been messing around with the idea on my alt channel to do react videos. So we'll see. But anyway, so I'm kind of curious what you guys think about this, designating them as a terrorist group. I'm sure there's going to be some hurdles doing a domestic terrorist group, but from my opinion, I think this is long overdue. Antifa, to me, has seemed to be an anarchist hate group that has been determined to destroy America as founded. And I often wondered why we didn't do this sooner. I mean, obviously, under the Biden era, you know, when you're talking about the brown shirts, which is essentially what BLM and Antifa are, the left is not going to go after their own as long as they're useful. And Antifa, in particular, has been very good at bringing terror to your average American who, you know, may just be sitting there and minding their own business. So they've been good at what they've done. Anyway, so let's take a look at this article. So this is House Freedom Caucus Chair. Other Republicans back Trump in designating Antifa a terrorist organization. Andy Harris says President Trump is right. House Freedom Caucus Chair Representative Andy Harris and other Republican lawmakers expressed strong support for President Donald Trump's decision to label Antifa a terrorist organization and recommend investigating the group's financial supporters, which, again, about damn time. He said, this is Trump. Trump said, I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for attention to this matter. I'm assuming a executive order on this will come soon. Let's see. Representative Harris about this said that President Trump is right. Antifa is a dangerous, radical group that thrives on chaos and violence. Rightfully declaring them a terrorist organization will help protect our communities. It is time to investigate those who fund them and stop the lawlessness once and for all. And that is the understatement of the century, because Antifa has been for well over a decade now raining terror on American citizens. And a lot of these Antifa types, I knew a few of the crazy lunatics. They used to be hippies that were doing the whole Occupy Wall Street. And these people self-aligned with Antifa long ago. They just became more and more radicalized as the years went on. And this should have been shut down ages ago. If you designate Antifa as foreign, you can use existing FTO laws. Yeah. And that's where I think if they can find the funding, it originated in Germany and his foreign support, like Canada, funding groups tied to them. Yeah, that. Of course, it would come from Germany. Well, that's right. Why am I not surprised? German people are great people, brilliant, intelligent, and also part of my ancestral past. But they do have this bad habit of trying to take over the world every so often. Let's see. Now, the House Freedom Caucus account reposted Harris's post and posts by GOP representatives Ellie Crane and Andy Biggs, both of Arizona, in which they shared screenshots of the president's post about Antifa and thanked him for it. Senator Rick Scott of Florida and Mike Lee also thanked the president. Scott said Antifa has gone away with its evils and terrorized cities across our country for far too long. This is 100% the right move. Thank you, President Trump. And Lee wrote, Antifa is like a group of arsonists masquerading as firefighters. Thank you, President Trump, for designating Antifa as a major terrorist organization. And but again, I think this is the right move, and I think it's long overdue. Antifa has been a deep concern of mine because these are the brown shirts, the militant wing of the Democrat Party, same as BLM. And whereas BLM primarily stuck to racial issues to exploit, Antifa was just there. And these people, they've been an imminent danger for America for a long, long, long time. And if I had my way, we'd lock them all the hell up and throw away the key. That's just me, but I don't run things, so just my opinion here. But there's too many of this going on, and these organizations need to be crushed if we want to have a peaceful society in the future. I want to touch on this a little bit. This is Candace Owens. Actually, no, I'm going to save this for a topical. Let's see if I have anything else I want to cover right now. U.S. cops show up at Trump supporting cancer patients' home. God, the UK, man. I feel bad for anyone in the UK right now. What a brutal life. Freedom of speech out the window. Let's see if they got a video here. Refresh this. See if they actually show this. Nope. Okay, not going to load for me.
Accused Charlie Kirk murderer.
Let's see. Here we go. So I guess an American cancer patient, some guy who lives in the UK.
You can come in, but you better have a damn good reason for being here. I'm a member of the Free Speech Union, and I'm an American citizen. I'll have Elon Musk on you so quick your feet won't touch.
Something that we believe you've written.
I have not watched this. No. God, that's got the Karenocracy right there.
Facebook has upset someone.
You're here because somebody got upset. Is it against the law? Am I being arrested?
You're not being arrested.
Then what are you doing here?
My plan was
threatening.
If you were admitting that it was you who wrote the comment, you could just make an apology to the person.
I'm not apologizing to anybody. I can tell you that.
The alternative would be that I have to call you for an interview. I'm here to talk to you about the allegation. They've reported it to the police.
So what?
Obviously, we get a lot of reports like that.
Are there no houses that have been burgled recently? No rapes, no murders?
Yeah, that's all going on as well.
Well, then why aren't you out there doing, investigating those?
Because I've got to investigate everything that gets reported.
Well, you're not investigating houses being burgled.
No, that's not my job today. Would you like to have a look at the comment that I'm...
I don't need to. I know exactly the things I've said. You know how many people in this neighborhood have been broken into?
I don't look after this neighborhood.
No, of course.
It's really sad, by the way. The UK, throwing out freedom of speech at every turn. It's wild to think. I mean, they didn't have it codified into law, but I never for a moment dreamed that we would be in a situation, where the UK would follow suit in former authoritarian Orwell 1984 type governments. And start arresting people for memes. Like last year during the riots where this son of an immigrant, who they tried to hide his name until the outrage became so much they couldn't contain the protests and the riots, killed a bunch of little girls at a Taylor Swift themed yoga party. And they arrested over 1,500 people for posting about the protests and the riots. And it's wild to me that the UK has gone down this route. And I kind of wish that the Trump administration would be a little bit harder on the UK about this, because they're on the precipice of falling into an abyss or ending up in a revolution. And it's honestly, it's frustrating and it's wild to watch. Gunmetal says, was it a full semi-automatic offensive post? It was an assault weapon post, Gunmetal. Let's continue with this.
Of course you don't, unless there's a tweet, then you do. So what? I haven't broken any laws. So you're going to be wasting your time when you can be instead doing things that are more important.
That's why I wanted to just come to you directly, have a chat about it.
No. You should not be doing this. I'm a cancer patient. You can see that because I'm bald.
I didn't know that before I came, but it doesn't change anything. You still can't break laws. If you haven't broken a law, then nothing happens.
Well, you know whether I've broken a law. You can judge for yourself.
See, if she didn't break the law, this is intimidation designed to silence people. And the UK will inevitably arrest people like this. And they're going to keep increasing what they will do. And what excuses they have to arrest them. The Keir Starmer party is dangerous right now. And the right is feeling, in the UK, is feeling at a deep unease, to put it lightly. And things are getting out of hand. So I think, I don't know how many years there are to go before there can be any new elections, but it's bad. It's bad over there. UK has freedom of speech, and I have a girlfriend. I can say things too, but it doesn't make it a reality. Yeah, a lot of these countries, they need, if the right ever gets back into power, say in the UK, they need to codify their freedom of speech laws. You can't leave the door open for these leftist governments to squelch speech, because modern day leftism all throughout the EU, the UK, and here in the States have just become anti-free speech. Like the left is not the left that we all grew up with over the last number of decades. When I think of the Clinton era, Democrat Party here in the U.S., nothing like what we have today. There was just, back then it was more about the differences between big government, small government, which is the better way to run society, and that was it. And now it's now it's just hate and it's censorship. Let's continue with this.
Before you even show up at my door. The public knows what you guys are doing. We know what's going on in this country. Why don't you do that? Get onto them and tell them to apologize to me, a cancer patient, a woman living on her own, who has never broken a
I know she sounds like a Karen here, but this is still pretty funny.
law in her life, by the way, ever. An older woman, you tell them, I'm an elderly woman, I'm a cancer patient.
They have to come back and arrange an interview then.
Well, you can arrange it, but I'm going to tell you the same damn things that I'm telling you now. Next time, I'm going to have a free speech union lawyer with me.
That's pretty crazy. God, man, I just... It's so weird for me to see the UK falling into this. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so this is the New York Post. An American cancer patient living in the UK accused British cops of questioning her, as we just saw, over an allegedly threatening message that she posted on Facebook as part of the UK's crackdown on online speech. They tell us what the threatening message was. I don't see so far yet. Shocking video shows Deborah Anderson, a President Trump supporting mom of two, being confronted by a police officer, which we saw. Let's see. I really wonder if they show us. I don't think they're going to tell us. Yeah, the rest of this article is just kind of reiterating what we just saw. Let's see. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, I guess, weighed into this, saying freedom and expression is under attack in Britain, which is like saying the sky is blue. And let's see. The Bow Group, Ben Harris-Quinney, told the Post that Trump and Vance were absolutely right. There should be no doubt that the people in Britain are being cautioned, arrested, and imprisoned simply for exercising their freedom of speech, which, by the way, if the left isn't stopped there, this will not be where it ends. It'll only escalate. Famous comedian, for example, Graham Lineman, who moved to the U.S. to escape free speech restriction, was later arrested by armed police on returning to the UK over tweets opposing trans ideology. In other words, opposing reality, biological science that is bad in the UK and gets you arrested. And many felt that the case was dropped so quickly due to Starmer's fear of reprisals from the U.S. with a state visit upcoming. Yeah, no doubt. Harris Quinney said the biggest voice championing free speech in the UK is currently Donald Trump. And you know what's really sad, to kind of bring it back to Charlie Kirk, is from what I understand, Charlie Kirk was going to go over to the UK and help the right try and start doing what he was doing with public debates and public prove me wrong type stuff. So it's really sad that never got to happen. And let's see, Maxwell Marlowe, Director of Public Affairs, said that the free speech comments from the White House have caused a great concern here in the UK. Why would that cause great concern? Well, I guess if you're on the left and you want to crack down on people, sure, I guess it would. Now, it is important for the American government, if they wish to reinforce free speech for the British people, to maintain the pressure on the British government to repeal the impositions on our liberties. Well, that is a face right there. Keep men out of women's sports. Okay, this is the comedian that got arrested. All right. The FSU called the June incident chilling in its post about the video arresting the comedian. And what was Deborah's, for the cancer patient, what was Deborah's supposed crime? The policeman didn't tell her. Was it her passionate support of President Trump, etc.? The post read before saying the police had dropped her Anderson's case after the FSU took it up. I just want to know what she said, but I don't think we're going to find out here. So I will have to do some further research on that. So yeah, I guess we'll find out later. So yeah, there you go. Let's see. And I had a couple other topics. Do I want to get into this? Maybe. No, I might do this later. Yeah, I'm going to save these for topical umbrella. Okay. So I know this is again unorthodox, and I think I'm going to do more of these and test out to kind of test the waters of doing some of this live stuff. I'm going to try to format it a bit better as we go along. These are all off the cuff. I don't plan anything that I'm going to say before I sit down. And in most cases, I've only done the most precursory glance at the articles that I'm going to cover, just so we can get a live reaction and conversation about it. And again, if you guys like this stuff, let me know. I will be reading comments and kind of taking your feedback. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'm going to keep this brief today, and I might do some more of this in the future. And I guess we'll go from there. So again, thanks.